All right, so apparently I am live. So welcome to WorldQuant Unit 1 office hours. We are in the last week, the second to the last office hours. If I keeping track of that, right? Today is Wednesday, so tomorrow is the last set of office hours. Let's get this project deployed. Let me know, people who are joining us, who are here, do let me know that you can hear me, so I know that my systems are in check. I see that Rakesh is here. Hello, Rakesh. Thank you for joining. I see RDX is here. Hello, RDX. Welcome to WorldQuant Office Hours. Thank you for that confirmation that you can hear me. I appreciate that. I already started sketching out the agenda for today, but of course, I welcome anything else people want to bring up. I see Soon Johnson. Welcome, Soon Johnson. Let me briefly talk about the agenda for today, at the very least, is we're going to talk about squashing commits. Thank you, Rakesh, for the confirmation. I see Edward is here. Hello, Edward. We're going to squash commits, and then we're going to go ahead and post our project on GitHub. All what we've done so far is have a local project, a local repository tracked by Git, which is great. We learned about version control, but of course we want to host this project on a third-party service like GitHub. We could use another service or other servers out there, but we'll use GitHub. And then once we host it on GitHub, then we're going to finally do our Heroku deploy. And then we'll do the Heroku deploy. Hopefully things are working and we debug any issues. Of course, there's always some sort of debugs and fixes. So hopefully we don't have too many of those, but we go through those and fix those debugs as we deploy. And then once that is deployed on Heroku, things are working. Then what we'll do is I will welcome you guys to contribute to this project. Notice what we've done so far is kind of cool, right? We learned about Flask, and we're learning about Git, and we're going to learn about how to deploy in Heroku. But it's a rather simple application, a rather simple project. Of course, that was done intentionally because I'm going to open it up for contributions for you guys, the students out there who are listening, who are following along, want to add their contributions. So then I will create issues on that GitHub of things that need to be done, and you guys can go ahead and say, hey, I want to take care of this, I want to do that, and contribute, practice on contributing to a project, working collaboratively. We'll see how this experiment goes, right? It's a lot of, maybe overwhelming number of people wanting to add contributions, maybe not too many. We'll see what happens. It's an experiment. I want to get you guys working with contributing to projects and make it your own. All right, let's see the chat here. So I see RDX is asking, I was thinking of adding one or more things to our project. Is there a way to show a live scanning as our standard output? And when you say live scanning as our standard output, so let's say we are scanning the file for corruption using a Python script. What if we want to show a status bar that updates after every table scan which has been scanned? Let's see, rather than printing the status over and over again. All right, let me see what RDX, let me think about that a little more. So let's say adding more to our project, live scanning of our standard output, scanning a file for corruption using Python script. What if we want to show a status bar that updates after every table scan which has been scanned? There's probably a way to do something like that. I don't know on top of my head, but I'm guessing there is a way. I'd have to think about what exact there might be some Python packages that would help us out in that task. But I don't know on top of my head. But if you want to contribute something like that, by all means, go for it. I see Paulo is here. I see Rakesh is asking about Heroku versus Python Anywhere for deploying. And actually, Python Anywhere is a service. So there are various services for deploying, for hosting a project. And these are one of those things where we could do it ourselves. We could go into a service like DigitalOcean or AWS and rent out a server and configure that server to host our application. That's going to come up with some upfront costs. So that is why there are services that say, hey, we're going to make it easy for you to host your project. And one of those is Heroku. I like Heroku because there's a free tier, and to get access to that free tier, you just sign up and you don't even have to put a credit card down. Some other services say, hey, there's a free tier, but we do ask for a credit card on file. For Heroku, that is not the case. So that's why I like Heroku. Very easy. No one, if we don't have to slap down our credit card, That'd be greater. And I actually learned recently about Python Anywhere. Python Anywhere. So it's funny you bring it up. And I haven't played around with Python Anywhere, but I was looking at it as an alternative to perhaps Heroku. And I would say that I think Python Anywhere has a free tier. I could be wrong. Let's see if there's a free tier. Let's get started for free. I think, but the problem with Python Anywhere is that, as the name suggests, it's only going to be compatible with Python projects. Heroku, on the other hand, you can deploy other projects that are not Python, Java, Scala, I believe, Ruby. There is more languages you can use for your project, not just Python. And the other thing about Heroku is Heroku allows you even to host a Postgres SQL database. I'm not sure if Python Anywhere allows you to do that, but Heroku, even on the free tier, allows you to create a Postgres database for your application. Still part of the free tier. So I haven't deployed with Python Anywhere, so I cannot, give you a little more detail about it. But I guess my concern is that if you want to expand your project to other languages, that your support ends with Python Anywhere. Okay, so let's see other things on the chat. I see Paulo is here. I see Vera is here. Vera is asking, I've applied for Unit 2, but I'm still seeing the status for Unit 1 when I check for my status for Unit 2. So Vera, my question to you is, are you signing in using the same account you used to apply? And I see Soon is also helping out here, so thank you, Soon Johnson. Right, there should be another box, and make sure you are signing in using the same account you applied. And hopefully you haven't submitted your application yet for the next round, because you don't want to be locked into Unit 1. So I guess my follow-up to you, Vera, is did you actually go through the submission of the application? Hopefully not. But do make sure you sign in using the same account you used to apply to Unit 1. That's how we verify. That's how we verify who is applying, so we know to offer you the option of Unit 2. Okay, so I see RDX saying maybe flashing temperature throughout. Yeah, it's probably feasible. I'd have to think about how actually to implement it, but I think it should be feasible. Okay, so I want to keep on keeping track of the chat. Let's go back to our project. So let's open up our terminal. Let's see where we left off. All right, so I'm going to CD into data course, check where I'm at. Vera, keep us posted. Do sign in using the same account, and do let us know whether you now see the Unit 2 box. Okay, let's go into here. I'm going to do get status to kind of see the status of what's going on. Spelling counts, as always. I'm on branch Heroku. There's nothing to commit. I do git log. And yeah, so these are commits. And notice that these commits here are add Junicorn, add procfile, add runtime txt. What if we want to squash those commits into a single commit? Notice those are 3 separate commits, and you can argue that it's polluting our history. You can argue it's polluting our history because if someone looks at git log, they see all these 3 commit messages that are really part of the same change, the same addition to our project. Right, so since they belong to the same change, same kind of unit, maybe we want to encapsulate it as a single commit. A single commit message that might give you, that says get project ready for Heroku deploy, and then maybe right underneath it what those changes were. So we want to squash those commits. And since we have we want to squash the three past commits. I'm going to do git rebase -i head tilde3. What this says, this will allow us to rebase, and this is a whole other discussion here, but you can think of rebase as kind of modifying the branch we're currently on. And I want to be interactive. I want this process to be interactive, which will help out, makes it a little easier for us to deploy, to make use of it. And head tilde3 means I'm going to do a rebase of the last 3 commits. So I will hit enter. And it says, waiting to close the editor, cannot run editor, no such file or directory, unable to start the editor. It looks like there is no editor set in Git. And when we configure Git, one of the things we do is we set an editor. Usually there's a default editor already set, but for some reason that doesn't appear to be the case. So let's go ahead and Google that. Git set editor. And let's see a set of instructions to set our editor. And let's see, I'll do, all right, git config global editor, and then we choose the name of our editor. So let's try that out. Let's see what access of editors we have. Do we have Nano? We may not even have Nano. Let's see if we have Vim. We don't even have Vim. I think we have Emacs. We don't even have Emacs, and we can't even install... I don't think we have a text editor. I don't think we have a text editor at all in these pods. Very lightweight. Let's see. And we can't even install things. Let's see, VI. Nope. Emacs. Nano. Nothing. Maybe I should do this for future cohorts. Install an editor so we can actually do some of the more interesting things like squashing commits. Oh well, we'll have to move on. All right, so git status. So let me do git checkout master. And let's do git branch to see all the branches that we have currently. And I want to merge the Heroku branch. Not even VI. We don't even have VI here. Very lightweight. I guess we have very lightweight images since we have a large class. So sorry about that. I wanted to show squashing commits, but we don't even have an editor set. I'm kind of curious to see user. Don't have Nano, don't have VI, don't have Vim, don't have Emacs. What do we have? Oh well, I'll just move along. So let's go ahead and merge Heroku. Let's merge Heroku. Now I type in git log, and there are those commits. So I think I'm ready to deploy to Heroku. Well, now I'm ready to host my project on a service like GitHub. The whole point here is that while I have my repo on my personal computer, I would like to host my repo on a remote location. What about Less? We have Less, but Less is, we don't even have Less. Oh, Less in the file name. And Less is just a viewer. I don't think it's an editor. I don't think you can view things with Less. I could be wrong. If we can, I'd learn something new, but I don't think we can. So we have our local project, and we're going to host it on a service called GitHub. And this is great because, well, if I have my project and it only exists on my personal computer, my personal computer dies and I lose the hard drive, well, too bad, right? So let's host a project on a remote service, a remote location, so that I have access to it anywhere else. So that I could go onto another computer and pull in that project and submit requests and submit changes to this remote repo. And I can host this project. I can create a server and host it there, right? But that's a lot of work. I don't want it to maintain a server. So there's companies that their business is to host, let people host their repos. We use it here at our company. We have a GitHub account. where we host our project. Of course, it's private. Those are private repos, but that's what we do. So I'm going to go into my profile here. I'm going to go into, let's see, go into repositories, and I am going to create a new repository. I hit the new button. I'm going to create a repository to host. I'm going to call this a WQU project, and I'm going to give it the name of the session we're in. So session 2020-09. Here, put a little description. I'm going to put collaborative. I knew I wasn't going to spell that right. Collaborative project for RollQuant Unit 1 students in session 2020-09. I would make this project public, right, because I want everyone to have access to it. And then I would say create repository. And then here they give me a nice set of instructions on what I need to do to take an existing project and have it be in my GitHub account. Yeah, RDX, I did think about checking user bin and then see if there's any editor there, but I'm not going to search through that right now. Okay. Let's see where we are. All right, so we have a nice set of instructions. So push an existing repository. So let's go ahead and try that out. Let's see if this works. So let's go back to their project. So that was in Data Course, WQU project. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do git remote add origin. So this means I'm going to use git remote. In other words, I want to interact with a remote location of my project. I'm going to add a location. I'm going to call this location origin. We can call it whatever we want, but I'm going to call it origin. And that's sort of what is typical. That's sort of standard. And then what follows here is you can view at this is sort of the URL, right? Where is this remote repository located? It's hosted by github.com. My username for GitHub, followed by project name.git. Okay, so let me go ahead and hit enter. It looks like it kind of froze. My terminal froze. Let me just refresh. Okay, there's something called edit. Okay, maybe I'll take a look at that later. Okay, it looks like my terminal froze. Let's see what happens. Hopefully my pod didn't go down. Did my pod go down? Nope, it's still active. Do you know why this is frozen? Okay, let me try that again. Git remote add, and origin already exists. Okay, it looks like my command went through. So I've added that. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to git push origin master. I'm going to push the master branch to origin. I hit enter, and let's see, source ref spec spelling counts, right? Doesn't know a branch name master. So here it says, yeah, just say yes, just for authentication reasons. And it says here, please make sure you have the correct access right, permission denied. So I've been denied. I've been denied because I probably need to identify myself. So I was unable to push this here. So then what I'm going to do next is, if you give me a second, I will go ahead and configure this so I can push it. I don't want to expose some of my credentials. So if you give me 2 minutes, I will go ahead and do that. Let me go ahead and stop sharing my screen temporarily while I'll do the required things I need to push those changes. Okay, give me a sec. I'm still trying to get this to work. I think I'm missing something. It's not recognizing that I have access to this repo. Okay, I gotta transfer a file, so give me a sec. All right, I think I know what's going on, so still hold on. I will, of course, make sure I go over today's office hours given these technical issues. Get remote. Okay, I think it worked. Let me copy my password. Okay, it worked out, so thank you for your patience. I will make sure I go over on time just so I can make up this trouble I had. All right, so what I did is my remote, long story short, the remote should have been, I wanted to authenticate myself through a username and password of my GitHub account. And I was authenticating through what is called a public key. And then I couldn't find the public key to transfer it over. So, you know what, let's just go ahead and authenticate myself using my username and password. So that's what I did. So I changed the location of the remote, HTTPS. And then here is my username, and then I put my password. You can't see it. And then I was able to successfully push those changes to the remote location. So now, looks like there was some activity going on in the chat, so I will take a look at that. But if I go here, if I go refresh my project, here is our project. So I can take a look at the commits. All right, looks like it's, I'm called BitPerson. I don't know how that happened. And I can take a look at, here is my project right here. Everything I need, right? The nice thing about GitHub is, think of it as a nice interface to your Git project. What I have here is I have the branches. I can switch between different branches here. I can look at the log. Right here are all the commits. All the commits that I've made. I can look at when was the last time it was updated, the about page, right? Information about this project. So now, since it's a public project, anyone can clone this repository. In other words, and this is going to allow us for collaborative work. If you're right here, and now that I've hosted my project on GitHub, you could clone the repo so you have a local copy, make your changes, and then submit a pull request. In other words, submit a request. Since whether the project is public, I am the maintainer. You submit a pull request saying, hey, I've made these changes. Would you want them to be merged into the project? So now this will allow for collaborative work across people in different countries and different locations. So in fact, now let's go ahead and demonstrate. Cloning this project. So I'm going to go ahead and if we look at code, we can download the code, or we can clone it. And I can clone it using HTTPS. In other words, if I want to authenticate myself, I have to give my username and password, or I can authenticate myself using an SSH key. So I would choose this because I have this SSH key configured on my personal computer. So we're actually going to transfer over, and I'm going to do work on my personal computer. I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let's see. Okay, so I'm going to transfer over here. So you should see my text editor. And I'm going to say git clone. In fact, if I go back here, I want to copy that and git clone. I think it already has everything copied. quite, I guess. Let me just go ahead and have these two things side by side. All right, git clone. github.com and then the location. And I'm cloning the project. All right, and now I have it exist on my personal computer. So you can do the same. In fact, I will give you this link here. And you can take a look at it and clone the project on your own. So now you can have it exist on your personal computer. And let me take a look at the chat. It looks like there's a lot of activity going on while I was fiddling and getting things to work. Let's see. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that VI isn't present. Do we get a certificate at the end of part 1, or is there a specific date when those get issued, or is it based upon mini project completion? So you have to, I think the day which we give the certificates, I think is December 11th. I believe that is a date. We're going to send an email out today about those offboarding details. So take a look at that. That has all that information about completion and when we give you your certificates for completing the course. And there's two levels of certificates. There's the base one, and there's one with honors or with distinction. So I think people are putting here with honors as the RDX certificate. You have to have an average of 0.9 across all mini projects. Let's see. Yep. You have to complete everything by December 4th. So you have 2 weeks after this Friday. Yeah, dot. I guess dot. Yeah, I guess I'll play around with that later. And let's see. So Andre. Yeah, okay, got it. Yeah, make sure you use, when you clone it, use HTTPS. I think that one is the one you want to go with for your end. So now that I've cloned the project, I have it existing on my personal computer. So I'm going to CD into it, WQU project S 2009, and hit enter. And now let's go ahead and let's deploy this in Heroku, right? The whole point here is let's deploy it on Heroku. And I think I have everything to get it ready to deploy on Heroku. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy on Heroku next. And you can follow along if you have a Heroku account. So let's do, I think it's Heroku create, and then we say the name of the project, the name of our application. And let's hopefully we have a name that isn't taken. Hoping no one has called it WQU project S. And I don't know, for URLs, I like to use dashes instead. So let's do Heroku create. Heroku update available. So it's just updating something. Okay. And now what I've done, if I do git remote v, notice what has happened. I did Heroku create, and it has added a new remote location. So before, what I did is I created a remote location for my project that is hosted by GitHub, and I gave that remote location the name Origin. But now I've created a second remote location called Heroku, and this is where it's located. So what I can do next, if I say git push Heroku master, I'm going to push my GitHub project, my Git project onto Heroku server. And Heroku is going to see that coming in. Oh, this is a project. Let me look at the runtime txt. Okay, it's Python. Let me look at the requirements txt. Let me install those packages. Let me look at the proc file, which tells me how to start up the application. So this here will deploy my project. So I do git push Heroku master. So Python app detective, installing that version of Python. Installing some additional things we need to get our application running. And then we'll see that it's going to be installing requirements txt, right? Installing those requirements that it saw. Okay. Bingo, that seemed to have worked fine. Compressing it, launching it. It released it. And now we have our project. Our project is right there. Hopefully it works. There might be some errors, of course. We're going to hopefully debug those. And now I think if I do Heroku open, I think that should work out. If I do Heroku open, it should open up the application. There is my project right there. Hello, WQ project. Hello, the temperature is 0.6 degrees Celsius. So now I can post this here and you can visit that. It will take your IP address, figure out your location, and display the temperature of where you are. If you see at the top of my computer, it's 29 degrees Fahrenheit. So let's do the conversion to Celsius. So yeah, it's about -2 Celsius where I am at. And my project says 0.6. So of course there are going to be some differences in temperature. That's kind of a big difference though. I'm a little surprised. That's kind of surprising how that's too much of a big difference. I'm a little concerned that it's not working out as properly. But do let me know. Visit that page and do let me know what you see, because I think it should be telling you the temperature of where you are. Let me take a look and notice how simple it was to deploy this on Heroku. I have to have Heroku installed and have an account. And all I did was Heroku create, the name of the project, Heroku, I git push Heroku master, and bingo, it was there. Let me take a look at the chat. Can we get the project running on Heroku without involving Git at all? Let's let all the data in there in our local system. I don't think so. I could be. Good question. Let's see. There might be an option, but the nice thing there might be an option, but I'm unaware of it. I've actually been using Heroku, using Git. It doesn't need GitHub. It just needs a Git repository. It probably can work with other version controls, but I could be wrong. But there is my project right there. So I can click on it and I can see some information about my project. Where I can do activities, things like that, access, settings, resources, kind of overview, free account. So it should work out. In fact, I believe there is a way to, if I go into personal and I do new, I think you can also create a Heroku project if you go create new through the GUI, through the website. I think you can, as opposed to the command line. I think you can link it up with a GitHub repository. I think you can do that as well. But I did it through the command line. And I see other people reporting. So I see someone saying it's about 18 degrees Celsius where they are. And I think that's, I don't know where you are located, RDX. But given that you put a smile there, I'm guessing that it's accurate. So it was pulling your location. So it looks like we're getting different values. So it looks like it is getting people's different locations. I see someone else has negative 3.2 degrees Celsius. So you're in a cold region, apparently, Mr. Wiki. But yeah, let me know if there's any follow-ups. Yeah, so if you don't want it to be open source, Git would still be a solution, correct? That is correct. I don't have to host it on GitHub. It has to just be a Git repository. So Mr. Wiki is in Toronto, which is... Canada is generally cold, right? So we see a rather cold temperature in Toronto, and I see RDX is in India, which I believe is rather warm, I think, but there are certain parts that are cold from what I understand. So it looks like that makes sense. Those temperatures make sense. So yes, going back to RDX question is, you are correct. It doesn't have to be hosted on GitHub, but it just has to be a Git repo. So that is why if I go and I look at Git remote, and here are all the locations where my project is hosted, one of them is GitHub, but it doesn't have to be that way. Okay. So now that we got it working on let's see, now that we have it working on Heroku, we can go ahead and go back to our project and think about improvements. So since this is a public project, anyone can go in here and open up an issue. You can go in there and say, hey, I have, let's say, new. I'm going to create an issue. I'm going to say display location information. And I will say here, yeah, RDX doesn't have to be a GitHub. But keep in mind that, of course, Heroku has access to your project. It kind of has to. So, all right. So I'm going to say here, I'm going to say, let's go ahead and display the location along with the temperature. That way, visitors know where the temperature, where the weather data is coming from. Right, I visit the page and it just says the temperature. It'd be nice if we were to say, hello, the temperature is 0.6 degrees Celsius where you're located. It'd be a nice little feature into our project. So I'm going to create this issue, submit a new issue. And then what you can do is, if you want to tackle this issue, you can say, hey, I would like to work on this issue. And then I can tell you, yes, work on that issue. And then what you would do is you would create a branch. You would create a branch that adds that new feature. And then, well, first of all, you would fork this project. You'd fork the project. And what forking basically means is that you take the project and you move it onto your GitHub account. And then you go ahead and create a new branch. Well, actually, let's kind of work this through. Let's actually do this on my end so you can get a feel for how it works. I'm on my account. I'm going to say git checkout -b. I'm going to create a branch called license, etc. I'm going to create a branch here that I'm going to add license information as well as other information for my project. So I'm going to create a license, and for this project, I'm going to use the GNU GPL license. And GNU, so it's going to be an open source project, and not only that, but you have to make sure that if you want to use this project for something else, then you'd have to respect the license. Respect that whatever project that is derived from this project keeps this license of being open source. So I'm going to use that license. We're not going to talk about all the different licenses that are available, but I'm going to choose the GNU GPL license. And I already have that license somewhere. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer that license over. I already have the file of that license. So give me a sec. Well, I'll pull that. Okay, I copied them over. I type in ls, And now I have a file called license, contributing, and code of conduct. So since this is a public project, I want to have a code of conduct of how you should conduct yourself on this project. So I do ask, if you want to contribute to this project, you do read this code of conduct. It's pretty standard. I basically took it from what GitHub offers, right? So hopefully basically be a good person, right? So I do want people to contribute to this project, but adhere to this code of conduct. I've also added a file called license. And here is the license if you're interested and want to read all the terms and conditions. I'm not a lawyer, but let's go ahead and GNU GPL license. And here, let's go ahead and there's a website called Choose a License that this, yeah, like a disclaimer, yeah, and has all the, has information about various popular licenses for software. And this is a run through of what you're allowed to use. You're allowed to use this project for commercial use. You're allowed to distribute. You're allowed to modify it. You can patent it. You can use it for your private use. That's all allowed. However, you have to disclose the source. Where'd it come from? You must include the license in any other project you create. It has to be the same license. You have to state the changes. We have no liability and no warranty. So I like this website, which does a good explanation of the different licenses that are available. I'm choosing the GNU one because, well, I want to make sure that anyone can use it, but that if you were to use this project, that it also carries this license of open source. But for your own projects, feel free to choose any licenses. If you have an open source project, it's best that you have a license so it has kind of what are the conditions, what are the restrictions, or what is permissive for your project. And this is purely for educational purposes, so I'm going to use this license here. What else? I've added a contributing file that tells you sort of what I want when you contribute to the project. So this came from last cohort, so I'm going to modify this. Fall 2020 session. And yeah. So it says here, unless there's an issue open, I ask you to create a new issue. So if you want to create a change to the project, you should create an issue. In fact, if I go back here, I'm going to go ahead and create a new issue. A new issue. I'm going to say missing license and other documents. In order for people to contribute to this project, we need a license. A contribution guideline, a code of conduct. When that is all ready, then we can open the project for collaboration. Yes, I spelled it correctly. For collaboration for the wider WQU audience. We'll submit this issue. And notice the nice thing about GitHub, and there's other services, is that you can create these issues and you can communicate with your team. Imagine if this were a project you work in company. Of course, it'd be a private repo, more than likely. Maybe someone creates an issue and then say, hey, this is a problem. And then someone says, hey, I'm going to tackle that. Easier to assign work remotely. So how do we import it if we have a license in a text? I see this is an MD extension. So let's see, how do we import it if we have a license? The license file should be a text file. The MD is a text file. But of course it's markdown, so it can be displayed nicely. So your license could be a simple TXT file. In fact, license is a simple text file. There's no fancy formatting. But the MD extension refers to it is a markdown file. So it's going to have some nice display. It's going to display nicely when it's posted on GitHub. So I'm going to go back here to my terminal. I'm going to do git status. I'm going to add these files. I'm going to add code of conduct and contributing and license. And I'm going to say git commit. And if I just do git commit without any options, what it does, it opens up a text editor. And I can give a little bit longer description. I can say add required files. Oh, I don't know what happened there. Looks like it got messed up. Add required files for wider contribution. And then I say add a license, add code of conduct, and add contributing guidelines. So if I do git log, now here's my commit message, but it's a little bit longer now. So if you want to write a longer message, do git commit, and then it should open up a text editor where you can write a longer git message, longer commit message. And the reason why I want to do that here is because I wanted to have a little more information about what this commit does. It add required files for wider contribution. That's what it does. Exactly what adds a license, code of conduct, and the contributing guidelines. So let me know if there are any questions. I think I've done a lot of talking, so let me slow down and ask for questions people might have. Okay, let me know. Let me know. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. So what we have, let's kind of recap what we have. Is I have the project located on my Rollquant pod. I then pushed a copy of it to a third-party service, GitHub, so it's widely available. Then on my personal computer, I cloned the project. And I create a branch called license, etc., where I've added some files. I modified my project. So I have the master branch, but I branched off to a different branch with the license. So this is a license branch. But this branch exists on my personal computer, only exists on my copy of the Git repository of my code base locally. No one else has access to it just yet. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this branch. I'm going to push this branch to my account. Notice I'm not pushing master, the main branch. I am pushing this specific branch. So I'm going to do git push the location of my project, which has a name origin. Remember, I call that origin. And then I say the name of the branch. And I think it's called license, etc. So git push origin, license, etc. Push that. It's telling you what's happening. Successful. So now if I go back to GitHub, where is GitHub? If I go back here, ooh, it looks like it's saying, hey, there's a new branch. Let's compare and pull request. So I'm going to open up what is called a pull request, a request to merge these changes into the main master branch. All right, by default, it takes the title of your commit and whatever, but of course, you can modify this. Explain a little bit more about the pull request, anything that needs to be requested, or anything else that needs to be in there. So what I can say, since this pull request satisfies a issue, I should say this pull request, PR for short, takes care of issue number, I can do hash, and where is it? Issue number 2. So now, if I look at preview, it's linked right there. Issue 2. Specifically, it adds the license, add code of conduct, and so forth. Once this has been merged, then others can finally contribute to the project. So I'm going to create this pull request. And then, so you think of it as a pending change. So me as a maintainer, I see the pull request and I say, okay, you can assign it to other people to review. I can assign it to people. Hey, take a look at this pull request. Let me know what you think about it. And they can put comments. They can improve on it. They can do whatever, whether it satisfies it or not. So that's what you're going to have to do when you create you're going to go ahead and fork the project, create a pull request, and then and assign me as a reviewer. Create me as a reviewer, and I will take a look at it and say yes, or I say no, you need to do this. You need to do this instead. I'm going to merge the pull request, and I'm going to switch this to rebase and merge, and then I will say rebase and merge, confirm rebase and merge, and now I can go back to my project, and guess what? Look at my commit message. Look at my history. I've added the required files for wider contribution. There it is. It's now on the master branch. So if I go back here and I do git checkout master, and I say git log, I don't see that new commit. I don't see it, right? It's not there. In fact, I type in ls and I don't see those files. They're not located. Where are they? I thought I merged in those changes. If I go back to GitHub, go back to the master branch, I see the commit message. And not only that, I see the files. Code of conduct, contributing license. However, I don't see it on my personal computer, on my personal copy of the repository. And the reason why is because I am not in sync with the repository that GitHub is hosting. Yeah, it's on remote, but it has yet been on my account, on my personal copy of the repository. So what I need to do is I need to pull in the changes. I need to pull in what currently is on master on GitHub, on master on my remote repository. So exactly, Andre. So I'm going to say, to do that, I'm going to do git pull origin, because that is the name of my remote location. I called it origin. Git pull origin master. I hit enter. And then boom. There are the changes right there. and I do git log, and now my personal copy of the project is in sync with remote. It is in sync with what is being hosted on GitHub. And this will allow for easier collaboration amongst people. The workflow is you clone the repository, you create a branch. You add your changes to the branch, then you push that branch and you open up a pull request. And then I will look at that pull request and either approve the project, approve it, or ask you for modifications, and I merge that into master of the remote repository. And then you can then everyone else can do git checkout master and then merge in those changes that are master. Let me know if there are any questions. I will take a look at the chat right now. So Ragaraj is asking about access to the office hours videos. You will have access to those videos at the very least the end of this calendar year. We don't make any guarantees about hosting those videos after the session is over. In full disclosure, we haven't been taking them down, so they've been available for past cohorts. They're still available. However, we don't make any guarantees. There might be some time where we have to clear up some space on YouTube, so presumably some of those videos might get deleted. However, you will have access to those videos at the very least the end of this calendar year. Yeah. Thank you, RDX, for answering that question as well. I just realized you answered it. Okay. Let me know if there are any questions people have. But now you should be ready to contribute to this project. And one of the things I need to do is I need to add a README file. A lot of projects have a file called README that explains the project, explains how to get going, how it works, how to configure it, how to install it. So I need to do that. So I will go ahead and go to issues. Oh, this issue has been resolved, right? So I can say, notice how it linked it up. And I'm going to close this issue. I'm going to say, this issue was resolved by pull request number 3. I think that's the pull request. And close with comment. So it's still there for others to look at, but it talks about how it was resolved. And I'm going to create a new issue. Missing README. I'm going to say here, this project needs a README file so that others know how to configure it on their own. I'm going to assign me, because I'm going to have me in charge of doing this README file. So I'm going to submit the new issue. Okay. All right. Let me know if there are other questions people have. But I think we have a nice little simple project that we are hosting on GitHub. That is a web application hosted on Heroku. And that we've opened it up for others to contribute. So don't be shy. Don't be shy. The process is, if we look at this file here, open up an issue, create a branch with those changes, make sure to follow the Git and code style shown below, and yeah, I even say make sure the contributor section the README file. I gotta add that README file, but I like to have in the README file a contribution section where I have all the people who have contributed to the project. See, Ragarash is asking a question here. It says, if there are changes on the branch and master at GitHub repo, would I have to pull origin master and git pull origin branch? So, in other words, let's say you always have to do git pull to get the most updated changes. You always have to do that. So that's why you should always, before you create a new branch, you should pull in the latest changes. Because you want to make sure that the branch you create, so let's think about it this way. Let's say this is the master branch on GitHub. And your master branch doesn't have these two new changes. And you start creating a second branch. It's best that you, before you do this, before you branch off, that you bring in these changes. You git pull master. So that when you branch off for your branch that you're adding, that you're creating, that you want to contribute to the project, that you have the most up-to-date version of the master branch. This will make life easier. There are things to fix this. We can perhaps talk about this tomorrow. Specifically, rebasing. Rebasing is basically taking your branch and moving it to a different start location. So the workflow is, make sure you git checkout master, you're on master. You git pull origin master so you have the most up-to-date changes. And then you say git checkout -b, the name of your branch. Now your question is, do I need to do the pull separately? No, you don't need to do the pull separately because the branch you are creating only will have your changes. However, if this is a branch that multiple people are working on, then you do need to do git pull origin, the name of the branch. So to recap, make sure before you create your own branch that you pull in the newest changes. And since at least the moment, no one else will be working on your branch, you don't have to worry about keeping your branch up to date. So I see RDX has a question here. That makes me wonder, will this be auto-updated as our current work done might take some time? No, you have to rebase. Well, yes, that's why rebase is important. And that's also to make sure that we work through these issues. Because what I want to prevent is an issue being there and multiple people working on the same issue. So keep in mind that I have to assign you to that issue. So this prevents one person from doing the modification, another person doing the same thing, perhaps differently, and then have a clash. I want to prevent that. So that's why we're saying, hey, you want to contribute, you create an issue, then I will assign you to that issue. If you look at the contributing file here, explains the workflow. I'm basically going to act as a traffic cop to prevent multiple people working on the same feature, and then it becomes whoever was able to push it the fastest, right? So that's what I want to prevent. Create the issue, I will assign it, and then say, okay, you're good to go. Work on that. All right, so I am over in time, which is fine because I said I go over because I spent 5 minutes having some issues on my end. But I think we're ready for open contribution. I do ask for your patience since I have other things to do. I have other things to work on and whatnot. So give me some time to review your issue and give you feedback. But now we can go ahead, and you can also want to take what we have here and make it completely your own. Completely your own. That's perfectly fine. Something to look at is, let's see. I like this repo here because it has a list of a lot of public APIs that we can use to improve on our project. So check it out. So with that said, I am signing off. Looking forward to seeing issues and contributions. And with that said, guys, take care. Have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you tomorrow.